definitely handled it well. We appreciate all their input. Also, I noticed a lot of Bentley folks on the, in the session. So I really appreciate that also. It just gives everybody a better feel, of where everything is. Maybe alleviate some fears, or maybe, I don't know, hopefully it does. Maybe encourages people to get there and use the product and move it along.
Yeah. That's ultimately what it's going to take. Like anything else, the more we use it, the more we figure out what is working and what is not, and what we need to be tweaked from specifically the NCDOT side. But as a general rule, we are working very diligently to try to use the Bentley software as much as possible, quote unquote, out of the box as possible, to have as few customizations specifically for NCDOT as possible. So with future upgrades, future work, we're trying to keep it as streamlined and as simple as possible and use the software as designed. So
in our conference, we always like to get consultants up there and different NCDOT departments and show some of the, give some presentation and show some of the projects they've worked on and just show what's working and what's not. So that's always a favorite part of our conference. And may expand this a little bit more. I noticed we got some presentations today, but we may do some more presentations later when we get further into some of the projects, actually get going, what some of the struggles are from each department. And versus just a question and answer session, and
sure,
session, maybe actually have a project.
And along those lines, like I said, we fully intend, and I believe we should have representation on the presentation today from 3 firms, CDM Smith, KCA, and Wood, to talk about some of their user experiences here. So
yeah, I say we need to probably, we're only giving like 15 minutes.
Let's jump in
this thing, so we're going to jump in, but we may expand upon this type of format, not just having it at the end, but maybe have it all during the week too. So with that, I think everyone's pretty much comfortable with all our script. It's been recorded, muted, but if you got questions, just unmute yourself. And the PDH credits, I think everyone's pretty much got that down pat. So I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it and give it over to Jeff, and he can get started.
Absolutely. Get going here. Really appreciate, again, NCLUG for assisting the NCDOT to put this on. It's been a really solid week. Really appreciate all the presenters from all the different disciplines. Can't thank everyone enough for taking the time and energy to share where your specific units and disciplines are at in terms of the implementation. It's a big task, and so we're trying to make it work. So for this afternoon, I'm going to keep my part very short. I want to get to the PEF input and recent experiences with ORD by 3 of our firms that are actively working on ORD pilot projects in the state. So I want to hear from them, hear some of their experiences and some of the points that they're sharing, which we really appreciate them doing that. But I'll give just a quick recap of this week's sessions, the plan moving forward, and again, just leave some time at the end for lots of Q&A that may have come up during the week or based on the presentations we're hearing today. But just want to leave as much time as possible for everyone else. So I'm just going to fly through these pretty quickly here. I always put this up, but just as a quick recap, again, we are moving as the NCDOT to the OpenX platform, the Bentley Connect platform, which includes Open Roads Designer, Open Bridge, Open Ground, Open Rail, looking into that, all different pieces within that software platform for our CAD operations. So just leave it at that. It is a major transition, a major shift. It changes how we're doing work here at the NCDOT on a lot of levels. So just as we peel back that onion, we find stuff every week. So we really appreciate everyone's patience as we work through this as a state and a collaborative effort. I always put the slide up because I'll just fly through it real quick. It is a change in mindset. We have been designing in a 2D type workflow forever, and I'm always appreciative of Jason Moore for this slide. But we are moving towards this 3D mindset and what that means, and the sheets become more of an incidental as opposed to what we're actually designing. So we're really starting to think about things in design in a 3-dimensional type mindset, which really fits the human brain a lot better, but we have trained ourselves to think flat for so long It's a big change. And how we're moving away from GPK, what that truly means for a lot of us, continue to work through that. Benefits, I know I talk about all the time, but we are doing this to better our design functions for the state, for our citizens, for our taxpayer dollars. It should benefit our consultants, our design firms, the construction industry at the end, and our contractors, our agencies, and ultimately our citizens. And it's come a long way in the last couple decades. The ability with all the hardware, the software, the policies, the logistics, legalities between really making this a reality. They've been developing for years and years, but we really are at a point where it makes sense for state agencies and certainly NCDOT to move forward with this new powerful software because we can and we should. It's the next evolution of what we need to be doing. Those benefits really ultimately are going to help us better spend taxpayer dollars, which is ultimately our job at the NCDOT, to be stewards for our citizens of those taxpayer dollars. The more we can capture those design elements up front, using modeling, using three-dimensional software mentality to really see those clash detection opportunities above the ground and certainly below ground, that subsurface understanding and work. And that's going to be something that's going to be developed over the years with digital twins, our as-builts, as we really get a better understanding of taking our data forward in our design process and not lose it during the different phases of design. So again, just trying to capture it early, maximize our taxpayer dollars. That ultimately is the goal. And the software should make it more expedient and efficient for our firms to design our roads and bridges and the terrain around what we're doing as far as within our right-of-way and our footprint. It's easier to see, again, the future of augmented reality, virtual reality, sharing that with our citizens. Again, the majority of the folks that benefit from our roads and bridges are not engineers. So the easier we can make it for them to see and understand the effects to their community, the better. So that's what we're trying to do with this software. Just put up this quick recap slide. Again, I just want to thank everyone for all the sessions we've had between CAD services, all the wonderful information around our workspaces, project-wise, how we're looking to set up our environments between location surveys and photogrammetry, how we're doing our base mapping, how we're doing our utilities work, and how we're really driving that forward. The geotech side of the house, as far as how we're trying to move forward with open ground and the implications with that replacing Ghent and how we're driving that. Of course, roadway, hydraulics, structures, those three disciplines are really, really far along the path. We've just got to drive it home, and we're right there at it. And certainly kudos to structures for their work that they've done the last 6 months to a year here to really make Open Bridge Designer, Open Bridge Modeler their reality and what they're truly using for design purposes today. And of course, roadside environmental and construction and what the impacts of this will be in the months ahead and the years ahead. Brian Edwards and I joined an AGC meeting today talking with members of AGC and about what some of these initial pilot projects and the developed model, how that can be tested, how we can pilot that with the construction firms that have been awarded these contracts this year, and how we can start testing out some of the back end software around synchro and other pieces. So with all that said, it's been a great week. I just can't thank everyone enough. This has been very beneficial for a number of us, including myself. So thank you. Moving forward, like I said, again, this has been a journey. I say this all the time. I've shared this chart so many times, but really, I just want to stress that we are squarely in the implementation phase. We have done so much pre-work to get here. So many folks have carried the torch. I just want to express gratitude for that as well. And really looking forward to the years beyond here and really seeing what some of these anticipated model deliveries may look like and how we can all benefit from implementing this software. This is that busy chart that I had up that basically shows the red, yellow, green status. I just want to recap real quick that we're working towards getting all our disciplines towards a green or yellow as we figure out how to minimize any kind of workarounds. Bentley's been at the table with us, helping us develop those the software so we don't have to do so many workarounds, but we really want to get it where it fits our NCDOT workflows. So as we continue to drive this, we'll keep everyone posted. But we have achieved a lot of green in the last year or so. So I just want to thank everyone. We are squarely getting there every month. The plan, like I've noted again and again, but we just got to continue to use the software, whether that's in a test type environment for projects we've already completed, but just testing out the software, whether that's in a true pilot project sense where we're actually going to develop those plans in an ORD to let how we figure out where the gaps are and what we need to fix. And so that's where we're going to figure it out. Training is huge. There's a number of groups that have been developing their specific discipline training. Bentley has been developing a lot of the training. Our NCDOT is developing some one-on-one type training. We're just trying to everyone figure out how to use and learn the software. And a lot of that comes from just repetition, as we all know. So we're getting there. And then for those out years, again, starting to target those piloting model delivery for construction. So we are working towards that. A number of pilot projects are underway. I won't go through this chart too much, but my biggest messaging for any PEFs that are on the call that are looking to get involved, please reach out to your project manager, to other folks that are involved. You can reach out directly to myself or the ORD work team to see where those opportunities may make sense. We want to get you involved, and if you have the desire to use ORD, we want to find those right projects for you. So we'll figure those out. Again, trying to work with the industry as best we can, so I can't stress enough to please reach out and communicate. Go to the website, use the email address, reach out so we can get this thing figured out. But with that said, I'm going to pause and we'll do a lot of Q&A at the end here. But I want to turn it over to CDM Smith, and hopefully you guys can share your screen and take over, and we'll just dive through a couple of these presentations.
Hey, Jeff, it's Adam.
Hey, great.
Yeah, let me share my screen real quick.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
Yes.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess first off, just want to thank NCDOT for allowing CDM Smith to be a part of this. It's been a great partnership. We've had monthly meetings with you guys, and we brought up any issues that we've had. And
I know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Try that mute button, everybody.
I think someone needs to go on mute.
Really going through and making a couple of comments on the.
All right, yeah, but anyway, yeah, just appreciate the partnership that we've built and been able to work through some issues. And in this presentation, we're going to go over some of the issues that we ran into and some solutions that we had on the roadway and drainage side. My name is Adam Conrad. I'm a project manager for CDM Smith and also a roadway design engineer. I've been here for about 5 years, and I've got about 10 years total experience in the industry. And I'll let Shershant introduce himself real quick, and then we'll run through this as quick as we can.
Hey everyone, Shershant here. Yeah, I've worked on these projects when I was with CDM Smith, and I think some of you might be aware that I've joined STV this week. So I still wanted to go ahead and help out with the presentations. Shershant here. I have about 15 years experience doing drainage, and I've been doing drainage in North Carolina since 2013. So go ahead, Adam.
Okay, thanks, Shershant. Yeah, like Jeff said, we've got 2 other firms that want to share, and we want to leave some time for questions at the end. So I'll try to scoot through these as quick as I can. Just an overview of the pilot projects that we have at CDM Smith. We've got the 2 bridges in Division 2 that were on Jeff's slide. We've also got an access road in Wake County with Division 5, that's HE0002. And then we've got a roundabout in Division 11, it's R5912. And then the express design feasibility studies, the current one we're working on is NC58 in Snow Hill, North Carolina. And all of these right now are being produced in ORD. Some of the roadway issues that we've run into, when loading auto turn, many users believe it failed to load because the toolbar does not load after the welcome window pops up. This is actually because in ORD, auto turn toolbar is now attached to the ribbon tab, and by default it can only be found in the drawing workflow. So you just need to switch over to that drawing workflow. You can also have the option, if you'd like, you can take the auto turn tab and associate it with a different workflow. You need to right click on the ribbon, select customize ribbon, and then find the auto turn pro tab and add it to your workflow that you decide to add it to. And I meant to mention this before, but we use the 1009 workspace for all the projects that we're working on now. So some of these issues and that I'm going to talk about in the next few slides, they may be fixed by the 1010 workspace, but just keep a lookout for that. And hopefully we can make these slides available. And that's why I tried to be a little more detailed on the roadway slides. So if these are made available, you guys will have step-by-step process to solve issues in the future. Another one of the things we ran into is when you annotate alignments, the standard interval is currently set at 1,000 feet. And most of our projects, we like to have that at 500 feet. So if you want to change that, you need to open up your Explorer and go into the OpenRoad Standards tab, and then follow those steps 1 through 8 to change it to 500 feet. I won't go through each one, but essentially you just go through and find it and get the station ticks, and then you got to make sure you also change the labels as well. That's the big thing right there. Continuing on, we've had an issue with the horizontal and vertical annotations. They snap back to their originated place if the file's closed or the linked feature is changed. The way we solve that for now is we use construction class for those labels, and then we place labels with the place label tool until a solution is found for that. It's something that I'm hoping is fixed in the 1010 workspace. For cross-section annotation, we had issues with components not annotating on both sides of our cross sections. You can make sure you fix that with reflecting the template, and you got to have your affixes correctly set. So you got the tilde on the left and the plus sign on the right. Continuing on with roadway issues, we had issues with cross sections at key stations printing on their own sheet instead of printing in order with everything else. The solution for that was when you insert a key station, make sure it's included in the overall original group and does not sit outside, which means don't create a new group. And we've got some pictures off to the side to help with that if you have this presentation in the future. Other issues we had the cross-section ditch annotation was not working, and we didn't find a solution for that, so we had to label everything by hand for the projects that we're working on now. We believe the annotation issues stem from point names in the hydraulic templates, and when they don't match the roadway templates, the annotation tool has a hard time locating those points, and then it can't put the labels in there for you. And we've discussed this issue with NCDOT, and hopefully that will be a change for the 1010 workspace. Another thing we had issues getting the plans to print correctly. We fixed that for the most part by coordinating with KCA and Wood and trying to get some print configuration files that worked best. So not only did we collaborate with NCDOT, I mean, I think us, Wood, and KCA also worked together on these projects really well. And now I'll turn it over to Shershant. He can discuss some of the issues he had with the drainage design.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. And so the issues that I'm going to discuss, these are from a year back when the ORD drainage wasn't really as much up and running. And all of these workarounds that I'm going to talk about here, Bill Elam and the group has already fixed most of these from what I've heard. And I haven't had a chance to work on a newer ORD project, so we haven't had a chance to test these out with the current version. But the first thing was on the CSRs, where we have to include the inlet and outlet cross sections. We were not able to generate cross sections the way we could using geopack drainage, And so for that, what we had to do was we had to go back to geopack drainage and under DTM tools, under analysis, and then just generate those inlet and outlet cross sections in V8, and then bring it back into ORD. What we did on these two bridge projects was we still tried to put together the BSR and the CSR using the ORD cells and the ORD bar menu for NCDOT. So we were giving it a shot, and we were trying to do it as much as we could. But some of the things that wouldn't work, we would go back into V8 and do a workaround there, and then bring it into the ORD. So the first thing that we ran into was inlet outlet cross sections, and we had to do that in V8. Can you go to the next slide, Adam? The next one was on all of our BSRs and CSRs, we have to show a roadway L-line profile. And in ORD, the profiles are shown as elements, and there isn't really a profile sheet. But when we're doing it on a BSR or a CSR, we have to show it as a drawing element. And so I think roadway had to do a workaround for us where they generated the L-line as an element that can be shown on a BSR or a CSR without having the ORD, alignments and features brought into that file. So this was a workaround that we had to do, and Roadway and Adam helped us with that. But I believe this has been taken care of in the latest version as well. And then go to the next slide, Adam. And then this was the main thing, and I know that Bill and we discussed this, where doing the analysis in ORD itself, the whole geopack drainage and the storm drain analysis and the inlet capacity analysis, all that was not possible back then. The other thing with this was that the line styles or the line elements that were drawn in ORD were not geopack would not recognize those. So if you're trying to use the line elements to create your land use types or your drainage area, it wouldn't recognize elements that were drawn in using ORD. So we had to export all of that into V8 and do a separate analysis in V8 and also generate the geopack drainage report in V8. So these are some of the workarounds that we had to do. Jeff's not going to like that we are talking about workarounds only. One thing that really helped me increase my efficiency with ORD was how easy it was to cut new cross sections for my HEC-RAS analysis in for the CSR and the BSR production in ORD. You could just draw lines and create a stream center line, and there's a pretty easy way to go ahead and get that get the topo exported as a HEC-RAS file. So that definitely helped me out. But on the plus side, so I didn't want to just talk about the issues we had with ORD. There is efficiency that we also saw with using ORD. But yeah, that wraps up for me, Adam.
Okay. Yeah, Jeff, I think that's all we had.
No, that's perfect. I really appreciate that. And again, we'll just hold questions then for everybody, but I really appreciate it. And we'll pass on to KCA to see if we can get some knowledge from them. But thank you so much.
No problem.
Jeff, can you hear me? Just a quick
Yeah.
test.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Well, we chose to do our presentation on shear points. It's a little bit more complex concept from a cross-section perspective, but we want to thank NCDOT and CM Smith and Wood for development of all of our pilot projects, but we'll get started real quick. The project we're going to feature today, we've been given an opportunity in Division 4 to do a R project 5829. It consists of 3 major interchanges, with this being our largest. It's our Y4 that has up to 9 alignments coming in at one area. And we're going to show you what we had to do and how many failures and successes it took in order to get our shear points and our cross sections to get to a point where we could physically submit them. All right, so we're going to look at the B quadrant of our interchange first. It consists of the L, a ramp, a loop, and a service road that ran parallel to a ramp for some time. What we did to make this look and make this look presentable, we had 4 different iterations, three failures and 1 success. And we'll go through each of those in brief, so to hopefully give you guys an idea of what not to do when starting off doing cross sections in the interchange. So our first iteration, we did just like what most novice users to ORD would do, is open up a blank file. We took all of our CMDs and we created one glorious file that we can start placing name boundaries on and start cutting cross sections. Well, whenever you do that, for those of you that have done it, you get cross sections that look something like this. You get big giant slices of pavement. You get slopes that aren't accurate for this alignment, but are accurate when cut against another one. When you get close to a bridge, you get pavement along your L line, and then you catch slopes along your Y. And then when you get right under a bridge, you get super cool beam shapes, as well as the pavement on top. Now, while these cross sections are accurate based on your model, they are not conventional in the sense and are not currently accepted with the conventional way of thinking. All right, so failure method 1 was a bust. So failure method 2 was worse. So what we decided to do was take our 3D model and then just clip out portions of the 3D like you would in plan view. Surely that would be a good idea. Well, when you do that and run them, we clipped out the service road and the ramp and maintained our L. That worked. However, the annotation group did not work. What you get is it just phantom annotates all the elements that are not there in view but still exist in the reference CMB 3D view. So very quickly we scrapped that idea and back to the drawing board. So failure method 3, which is slightly better than 2, but required a much bigger effort to set up, was we manually set the name boundary offsets one at a time. And here's what we mean. So as soon as we start shear points for our ramp, our service road, and our L, what we did was create a manual name boundary for your L. It's a 10% off of the center line, and then it followed our stick line diagrams where it intersected with the next name boundary or cross section. So this worked, but what it produces are ugly looking cross sections. It also produces cross sections that don't line up along the center line, and you'd have to spend the majority of your time moving cross section references in your DGN just to get them to line up. Now, it gives you a good representation and it stops it at your shear points, but then you have problems like you don't see the existing ground anymore. If your point for a end condition is over here, the annotation group cannot find that point and therefore cannot label your end conditions. So this was also deemed a failure.
Reviewers will not like that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, just like iteration 2, I'm sure this would not be a good. You would have a lot of review comments here too. So iteration 4, I dare call it a success, but it is one that we actually submitted for review. So we'll look at it in that respect. We're calling it managed 3D views with multiple XPLs. Now, we'll dive into that briefly. What we did, we had to set up multiple XPLs in which to cut your cross section. So at the same area, approaching your shear points, we have one XPL that has the CMDs for the L, the ramp, and the service road all combined. And because they were all reasonably perpendicular, you got a good looking cross section, as you see here. As it comes down, and to your gore area for the ramp and loop, it all works. The annotations, if you pay close attention, you get weird slopes just because they're not perpendicular to the L, but they're good looking cross sections. But in order to separate out the L, we had to create another XPL in this location in order to just maintain the L, in which there was no references to the service road or the ramp. And then likewise, when we set up the XPL to get cross sections along our service road, we had to no longer reference in our L, which then gave us the opposite cross section. We also had to do extensive work to the annotation group. I didn't have it in our plan, Nelson, but
Yeah.
Whenever a traditional annotation group has multiple alignments that are in the same view, it will only
Label one instance of a slope.
right.
So for instance, your left grass shoulder point to your ditch bottom, right? If that instance appears 3 times on your thing, which it would appear 3 times in this case, it would only label one of those locations.
Right. So what we had to do is go in to each template, and we had to do a lot of front end planning to where all points in this template will have a suffix of 1. All points in this template have a suffix of 2, and then the L template has no suffixes. And then we had to add in all of those suffix point names to our annotation group so that it would label every instance. Therefore, so for this A project, we did very, very little hand modification to cross sections because of that. And I think that's all we got. Nelson, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
That pretty much covers it for the shear points.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, I think with that, back to you, sir.
Sounds good. No, really appreciate it. I mean, I know we're kind of shotgunning through this, but I foresee a lot of questions in, so we'll just all stick on and be ready for those. But just thanks for everyone for being so considerate of everyone's time. But we'll pass along to the third team we have on with Wood to talk through some of their experiences, and then we'll open up for Q&A.
Hey, this is Levi Littler with Wood. I wanted to demonstrate some of the annotation issues that we've been seeing in ORD, specifically with alignments, profiles, and cross sections. We found in our projects that, and we've mostly worked on small bridge jobs with ORD, but we found that putting together the model and creating the plans comes together pretty quickly, but our main time waster on projects is the annotations. I just threw together an example alignment file here. So annotating the elements is pretty simple. Obviously, just come in and annotate. But the big workaround we've had to deal with is that after you annotate your element, you might need to make some adjustments to keep text from interfering with other text. So if you might need to move down your alignment labels, shift things out of the way. And that's pretty easy to do in ORD. I'm just going to move these around for the example. But the big challenge is if you have any sort of change to your alignment, the alignment labels will reset. So let me move these labels here. Say here. Up here, there. If you let's just say we added another whatever distance. All of that alignment annotation will move back to where it started before. Obviously, on a small bridge job, that's pretty minor change to make to adjust those after making that change. But on bigger projects, it's obviously a huge challenge, having to readjust your labels every time you make a change to your alignment. With profiles, we found that we wanted to make some small modifications to how the profile label showed up. So this is how the workspace brings in the automated labels. You have just have a simple little label for beginning that project, and we felt that there was too many grade slopes. So for us, we decided to do some hand hand modifications to make it look a little cleaner. Clean up some of those labels. And once again, if you update your profile at all of those labels are going to go back to looking how they originally came out. For cross sections, I think this is the biggest time waster we have in ORD right now. Is cross section annotations. When you annotate your cross sections, they come in with about 1 million different slope labels. We did find, and Adam, the CDM Smith talked about this a little bit, but we did find that some of our labels come in funky, and that usually came down to point names. But the big challenge for us is that these cross-section labels for the slopes, you have to go through and you have to manually delete all the extra labels. I have not found a good workaround for this, and obviously this is a huge pain. We usually take like an hour each round of cross-section updates we make to go through and delete out all those labels. My understanding is that this should be fixed now with 10-10-2. I think it's with the same set of changes that fix the alignment annotations as well. So hopefully these workarounds and challenges are getting fixed with this next ORD update. But those are the big challenges we've seen with annotation so far. So hand it back to you, Jeff.
No, thank you so much. And again, just really appreciate everyone's ongoing pioneering work with this, because again, we're all figuring out the software at the same time from the private engineering firm side and certainly DOT side. So we're all doing the best we can. So it's a lot of trial and error, like you pointed out, a lot of experimentation on how to do this. But Brian, I'm just going to open it up for questions across the board from what we just saw from the 3 firms that have been using the software on some pilot projects to anything they've heard this week. I know we've got a number of good attendees on. I also know it's been a very long week. We've had 12 really great sessions, and this is wrapping it up. But we welcome any thoughts, questions, input, just an open round table from anyone.
Be sure to put your questions in the chat. But a couple of things I know, 1010 78 2078, they did fix that where your text snaps back, but I understand that's just for alignments. So that is fixed. I know the problem was having with cross sections where you get a lot of, where it's been labeling everything with the cross sections. I've actually tried that, and I noticed that has been corrected. Now it's following the standard setup for cross section, so you're not getting a bunch of labels in there. I noticed Carl's talked about the drainage is still, it's not there yet in drainage or utilities. It still snaps back in drainage and utilities, and that's good to know. There is a link in the Bentley docs that for a 2001 release 2, it gives you a list of all the defects that's been resolved. Everyone should check that out. And we got a question. Any issues with dealing with the existing base mapping and existing terrain, etc.? I guess that goes to any of the pilot projects.
Jacob from KCA, we didn't really have any issues with it. We just have to make sure that when you reference that in, because it was those things may or may not have been annotated when put in there, just make sure to keep all your levels off and make sure that all those elements do not show up as annotation whenever you bring them in as a reference file, and set your reference to the
line style to be based on the reference
Correct.
file and not your master file, because your line styles will come in times 50 where they're drawn in true scale.
Correct.
On the survey, because it was done in V8i.
Right.
I would say with the survey files, just make sure that everything is in there. We had an issue with the wetlands being on the wrong line style or missing or something like that. So, I mean, just be sure to double check and make sure you don't have anything missing, because this is also new for the location surveys section as well.
We had another question. There's some drainage info from the first firm, but for the most part, were these pilot projects just specific to roadway, or do you actually have drainage structures or any other departments involved?
I know for us, we're doing drainage on all of our ORD projects.
Yeah, we with our pilot project, we've been doing drainage as well. Just given the time slot, we focus in on shear points for this presentation, but we have been doing that as well.
And we have a general question here, which may be design, maybe CAD services or someone in IT. Has or will NCDOT update their instructional documents related to PEF setting up workspace configurations? I don't know if you're going to have them on one DOT, because that's going to be up to the consultants, but specifically for NCDOT. I know, okay, I mean, I know recently when you unzip your workspace, it actually goes to a different folder now. So that was something that was a little bit different. But things like that, I'm sure they're asking about.
And there's some really good question there. I don't know if anyone's on from CAD services
May
as
not
well.
be.
Yeah.
I just know when you unzip it now, it goes to the one WS-10 folder, which is a change. You know, so, you know, just some of these firms probably don't actually do this. You know, they may only set a workspace up once and maybe months down the road before they actually update it again, or you know, depending on a project, and the changes get made during that time. It's easy to fall behind. Let's see here. So FYI, Kevin Hoffman's got just a comment that NCDOT ORD zip file when instructed will disable the F.ORD workspace. There you go. That's a good FYI. Any more comments? Anyone else out there working with different agencies have conflicts like that?
Yeah, that's true. I've worked with a number of DOTs, and you have to be aware of how their configuration is installed and whether or not it's going to step on toes. Sometimes you have to play musical chairs with the config files.
Good to know.
Yeah, and was this Kevin?
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, Kevin, I would like to know more. I think Oak's not here, but I bet if he was here, he probably had the same question. Would like to know more on this.
I've written some back files to get to swap them back around. You get around it. You just got to write some little scripts when you're switching workspace.
Okay. I'll probably touch base with you, off the meeting later on, but just to kind of learn more on what happens behind the scenes or what's causing it, just so we know. Because I think, eventually that's the plan, is to, it'd be smoother, and that's the ultimate goal, is for you guys to be able to use multiple workspaces simultaneously. And if you have to switch between DOTs, it should be easier and shouldn't conflict. But I'm sure folks here might not be aware of it, so it'd be good. That's a good thing to know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there you go.
I got accidentally kicked off. But no, our workspace was designed to be all inclusive. That we purposely didn't put NCDOT in the name because we want you to put multiple DOT in that workspace. That's why it was generically named WS10 for the workspace 1010 workspace. But yeah, we're seeing we can probably meet with anybody that wants to talk about combining multiple DOT workspaces into one. We'll show you how to do that. It's very easy. So if there's anybody that's out there want to know how to combine multiple DOTs workspaces as one, I'll set up that way to begin with, and we could go over that with you guys.
I've got a question for Vaseem or Jeff. I guess maybe Oak too. Do you guys know when the like all of the ORD training will be done and all those modules will be populated. I think there's still a couple that are in development.
Yeah, that's a great question. Wasim Oak, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know we're on the home stretch. So I don't know Jason Moore could answer that as well if he's on. But in the next couple months, right? We're at the home stretch.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, as Jason pointed out in the earlier sessions, so there's maybe 3 or 4 that's outstanding right now. 2 will be released. The hearing map and the sheeting module will be released within the next month or so. And then we'll begin the other with resurfacing grades and interchange and construction and the quantity and estimate section further down in the year. But that's for roadway, but the other units have their own timetables, I guess.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Another question: Were there any issues with roadway templates when you were doing your pilot projects? Any plans to simplify the templates? They seem to be a little complicated for a typical user. I guess that's just a comment, but
yeah, that's well, I can answer that because I created it simply. There's there's a way to program templates. You can make really dummy templates and you have to drop a whole bunch of them per corridor, or you can make some very intelligent template and just drop one, right? But we try to balance that. So we try to find the middle ground in between those two philosophies. At first, it looks very, very overwhelming to work with, but I think if you get to working with them, it becomes easier and easier. I think, I think, in my opinion, it's a lot less overwhelming than the SS2 templates we had. Not too many, long point names that used to scare the heck out of us. But I think, we try to make it smart enough so you don't have to drop a template every time things change, right? But also not too smart where, the user get really frustrated using it.
I think you're tasked with that challenge, aren't you, Oak, of doing the template module. So maybe some documentation on the on the templates may help folks understand what they're doing. So I'm sure that would be a big help.
Yeah, just when we get the template module training done, and I started on it, but just drop it every time we got a fire burning somewhere that we got to put out. But yeah, once we get that, and hopefully we'll get the training done at NCLUG summer conference, we can get some of the template training done again.
Okay, I agree with you. I think Wood and KCA would also agree that modeling in open roads is much more powerful than SS2, and to me, I feel like it's easier to get what you want. I think everyone will realize that once they get in there and get more practice with it.
I agree completely. I think the modeling part is the big powerful part of ORD. I think if they work out some of the annotation and plan production issues, it's going to be a breeze.
Yeah, the creating the actual plan set is the part that I think people are struggling with right now, but we'll get there.
Yeah, and we kind of changed. I'm glad you brought that up. We kind of changed our philosophy with our embeds on the contracts with them to build the first training module, phase 1 and phase 2. We kind of changed our philosophy with ORD where we're letting the model and drive the DSN elements. So, no longer do you do the two separately, right? You don't draw the edge of travel, you don't draw the paved shoulder line, you don't draw the curb and gutter line. You let the model do all that for you. So you only have one process, and we put the intelligence in the template to do that. So that's a change in philosophy that new user, be doing ORD projects probably maybe struggle with, but once they figured out how to do that, I think it works out better for them, because I think I saw that with our test uh, uh, projects engineers in roadway with Han and Jay, that once they figure out what we were doing, we were trying to do with the templates, I think it made their job a little bit easier, that you don't have to draw in the DSN elements. Those are drawn in by the model for you.
Just curious, do you still draw some of the DSN elements to use for like
Yes.
point controls? That's how we
Yes.
want to do it. We draw enough to pull off the point controls and then let the model do the rest.
Yeah, and JJ's has been instrumental in Kimberly Horn about, some of the philosophies that we're implementing. There needs to be one single source of truth. Your model and your DSN element all is one thing, right? It's not two separate things. And there's different ways to achieve that. And one way is, you do the model, let it draw your DS element that you show on the plan, like Jeff's diagram early on. You create the model draws in your plan sheets, right? But the how do you do, like, when transition lanes and odd things happens, right? Lane drops and so forth. Well, you need a construction class element to target. I want to, this lane to widen out this long and this shape. So you use the construction class element to target and kind of form that model the way you want to.
That's good enough. From NCDOT's perspective, is there any timeline on other disciplines to do pilot projects besides roadway and hydro, who's already doing pilot projects, or other disciplines looking at pilot projects in the future?
On our projects, we did the UBOs and the UC in ORD, or at least for the two bridge projects. The other ones aren't really far enough along yet to get to that point.
From KCA's perspective, we're doing we have 9 bridges on our project, and we will be doing all of those in Open Bridge, but as it stands now, it'll still just be 2D line work, but we won't be able to sheet anything from a 3D model yet.
I think Jason made observation here. He said he saw some vertical bridge abutments on KCA's project. How'd you do those? And can either firm speak to slope abutment creation?
So how we chose to do those is those vertical abutments are in their own CMD. We have a standalone template that we run for each. We get our control points based on the elevation of the alignment up top, and then run it down at its desired slope, and then point control the bottom of the wall to the paved shoulder of the L. That's right, Nelson?
Yeah. And to clarify, that's not done in Open Bridge.
Correct.
That is that is done in the roadway workspace.
Right. And so, this is different model. That's a different model. And then this is a digital twin from Open Bridge.
Okay. How much, I got another question about how much of the pilot project's drainage was done in SUDA? Did you have to compute the storm drainage system in geopack drainage first, or were you able to run the system in ORD and break them up? for outfalls or avoid busts?
So for our projects, we did both. We did SUDA and Geopack just because hydro reviewers, when we submit to DOT, they're going to want to see our normal storm tabs from Geopack right now. We're kind of in that transition phase. We're just now starting drainage design on this R project, and we're trying to kind of coordinate with the hydro reviewer to only do SUDA and have that output be accepted, because we don't want to do both for a project this size, right? But so in the past, we've just been doing both and comparing outputs.
Has any of the pilot projects incorporated any water or sewer design?
Yeah, this is CDM Smith. I guess I mentioned it a minute ago that we're doing the water design in open roads. Not us, but our sub, Weston and Sampson.
Yeah, let's see if I can get through this one. For the shear points and the interchanges, was there an attempt to shear the corridors to each other? Have the template sheared along a line, and then just process the cross sections layout with one corridor attached, not showing multiple alignments on a single sheet? That was a lot.
Got that, Nelson?
Yeah, so our templates are sheared to each other or targeting each other, so they're meeting together correctly and everything. When we had alignments parallel, since this is a big project, we tried to show as many on the same as we could just to reduce the amount of sheets. I mean, our cross-section file is still at what?
400 for A.
400 sheets for A, I think.
Yeah.
And that's with trying to combine as many as possible. For where we did shear points, that is what you're describing is what we did. We only, so when a shear point where they were going away, our shear point now is only, the cross-section is only showing the L. Right. And the ramp will have its separate cross-section. Right. But up until they veer away, we're showing both just to reduce the amount of sheets.
Correct.
I'm just looking back through here and make sure I didn't miss. If I missed any questions, please type them in again. We had quite a few here, quite a few comments, so I'm trying to look through them. Or unmute yourself if you want to ask a question verbally.
And I know we're right at time for sure. Like I said, if no one chimes in, we can certainly wrap up again. There's lots of avenues to raise questions, but again, I'm just so thankful for everyone's time, and especially thank you, CDM Smith, KCA, and Wood Engineering for being a part of this afternoon session. But yeah, Brian, and I can't thank NCLUG enough, and look forward to future events. But we can work towards wrapping up, or see if there is any final question or two before we adjourn.
And just for, people, probably a lot of people that wasn't on at the beginning, but we are going to plan on NCLUG and NCDOT joint venture here, going to continue this in the future. We are looking at doing a July conference in person if we can get the logistics worked out for that with Bentley. But this is not going away, so this will still be there for people who can't attend the conference. So we're going to have both avenues available. Because we can just tell by the other departments that everyone's at a different spot and with ORD development. So we'll definitely continue as for foreseeable future.
Yeah, if back to the initial question about the multiple DOT workspaces, contact the Jeff Garland ORD implementation email address if you want to, schedule something to meet with us. I think we're saying can schedule something for all the consultants to say how can we structure your workspace to include everybody's in there, and don't have to worry about switching workspaces or conflicting configurations and stuff like that. So the implementation email address, I guess, would be a good place to start.
Anyone have any final questions or inputs? Like I say, I think Jeff's got the website and the email up on the screen for any comments or questions. Again, thank everyone for their time and everyone for doing the presentations. It was a great week, and we'll call it a wrap for this session, and look forward to doing more in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks you,
Thanks,
Brian.
everybody.
Yep. Thanks all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.